I can tell you were born a man. Well, what a coincidence. I can tell you were born a bitch. Let's go! Alright, here we go. So, folks, let's talk about it. The big elephant in the room, the GOP. What do we all know about it? Other than the fact that it is now pretty inundated with folks who really seem like they know which side they would be on if they were in Nazi Germany. Let's take a look here. What's going on here in America? What are the conservative forces in our country trying to do? Let's take just a quick overview of what's happening here. Let's see. Oh, so Australian hero took gun-off shooter. Terror attack Sydney, at least 10 dead. Australian hero took down gunman. That did happen. Guy, genuine hero. The guy who did it, Ahmed al-Ahmed, from Syria, became an Australian citizen about 5 years ago. Has 2 kids. Took his life into his own hands and wrestled a gun from one of the shooters during one of the largest terrorist attacks Australia has endured in a very long time. And in response to this, by the way, Councilwoman Vicky Palladino in New York City, she's on the city council. We're in the midst of a global jihad, the likes of which the world has never seen, and we cannot ignore it. We need to take very seriously the need to begin the expulsion of Muslims from Western nations, or at the very least, the severe sanction of them within Western borders. The administration needs to begin developing a formal legal framework for the denaturalization process and get it over with before we end up with another 9/11 or worse. Enough is enough. Now, this is a councilwoman from New York City calling for a process to strip people of their citizenship on the basis of their religious belief in Islam. She is then also going a step further and saying that beyond just stripping them of citizenship, there needs to be an explicit ethnic cleansing. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Because as we all know, one person of a certain religion does not mean all people of that religion are that way. That's the same for Christians, Jews, Muslims, Zoroastrians, you name it, right? Also, again, as far as I know, Ahmed al-Ahmed is also Muslim. So the folks who were attacking this, a father and son, have been previously investigated for ties to the Islamic State, right? They were cleared by the Australian Special Services, Investigative Services, whatever they're called over there. It doesn't make sense to say, look, at this example, all Muslims need to be gotten rid of, when a Muslim man literally took his life in his hands, had everything to lose, and he ran up to an active gunman shooting at a crowd of 1,000 people, a person who was killing Holocaust survivors and 10-year-old girls, and wrestled that gun out of his hands and managed to be the reason that guy was captured alive so that he can stand trial. That's crazy. I'm sorry. That's a hero. So when you say you want to ethnically cleanse anyone from a Middle Eastern country that is Muslim, that is, in fact, it's just horrifically racist. There's no other way of really breaking it down. And not only that, it goes beyond just your run-of-the-mill racism, because you're trying to turn the racism into a direct policy. And you are someone who has been given political power by your constituents, some of whom that you represent are Muslim. You're right. You're right. None of your business, broski. You're right. It is racism, but perhaps not Nazism. That's true. That's true. But let's not pretend a large part of Nazism wasn't deeply rooted in racism. The entire belief system of Nazi esotericism, the bizarre set of beliefs that they put together in order to support the policy goals of the state that enabled some of the biggest atrocities of World War II to take place. Some of the biggest atrocities of the Holocaust to take place were deeply rooted in the idea of Aryan supremacy, again, deeply rooted in racism. The idea that inferior races could then be purged. The idea that eventually the United Kingdom would, of course, become a friend to the German Empire because, well, they were both of the same race. Though, of course, the British and those of the UK, a slightly lesser, devolved race than the pure-blooded Aryans. Now, let us continue. Because, of course, I didn't just want to talk about what one city councilwoman said, because there's a lot of things that happen in this country. Let's take a look at what happened, closer to where I live, right? In the state of Minnesota. Now, here is a video. And this happened in the city of Chanhassen. Chanhassen, for those of you who don't know, is kind of it's a bit of a suburb, but it is kind of right where the suburb ends. Like a big chunk of Chanhassen just goes off into the cornfields. Just that's where rural land begins. And one thing you should also know is that on this particular day, the wind chill was 13 below zero. It was freezing temperatures. People, it's like finger losing weather, Let's just take a look.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know. They're getting on blankets? It looks like it. Someone's climbing the ladder. It looks like they're getting on blankets.
Two girls there.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, she's great. Oh boy. She's doing that. Okay. So they're getting Markov's blankets and oh, she's brave, climbing up all in that. She's getting to the top. That's Marcos, that is the worker that ICE is after. They just got him a blanket and a bag of stuff.
Now, what you just saw, man has been trapped on top of a building, surrounded by ICE agents in negative 13-degree weather. And I want to remind you guys, these are masked men, unidentified largely, and they kept that man up there. They kept that man up there for hours. This, I'm sorry, masked men coming into your neighborhood, unidentified, scaring people to such a degree that they have to hide on the rooftops in negative 13-degree weather. Lawless thugs empowered by this government. Brown shirt pieces of shit. And it's not just there. It's all over this state. Federal agents use chemical irritants on crowd in Somali neighborhood of Minneapolis amid Trump crackdown. Again, I want to remind you guys, on this particular day, wind chill, again, sub-zero. These people are just coming into neighborhoods to try and round up American citizens. Because guess what? The overwhelming majority, I believe the percentage might even be over 90%, of Somali residents here in Minnesota, especially in Minneapolis, are U.S. citizens. Overwhelming.
Not sure about the accuracy of this, but I heard some of the ICE raids were being done in coordination with BlackRock to affect property prices, specifically Midway Blitz.
Midway Blitz, yes, we can talk about that on another time. There is some evidence of that. Or at the very least, cooperating with local landlords, trying to evict tenants. But again, they will just show up and rough up Somali residents here in the state. And you know what? If they can't find the Somali-looking individuals that they're looking for, and again, they're just looking for people who look Somali, then they go after anyone who looks Latino. That's it. And, what they're doing is instituting a terror regime. There have been numerous instances here in the Twin Cities. It's been covered predominantly on local news. These ICE agents raiding Somali restaurants, African restaurants, Brazilian restaurants, basically any remotely ethnic restaurant. These people are just showing up and ransacking the place. There was a story not that long ago about a Brazilian cafe that got targeted by ICE. I think maybe about a week or so ago. And they ordered everyone out of the restaurant and detained several individuals from the restaurant. Everyone in there, an American citizen. People who came by after, or observers after the fact, found that the door was unlocked, open, the place completely deserted, money was still on the counter. People had left their belongings because they had been, terrified of ICE. It's Nazi shit. And, I mean, guys, one of the bigger stories from around here is from a Somali man who we'll call Mr. Mubashir, right? Here is Aaron Reichlin Melnick, who I would recommend following. He's a prominent immigration lawyer. Wow, Mr. Mubashir told local news that DHS officers outright refused to check his real ID to verify his legal status, and instead handcuffed him and dragged him down to the local ICE processing office so they could fingerprint him and run him through their systems instead. Mubashir said he was in the car with officers for about 20 minutes, asking them repeatedly if he could show them his ID. They refused, he said. Officers asked if they could take a picture of him to check if he was a U.S. citizen. Mubashir told reporters that he declined their request because how would a picture prove I'm a U.S. citizen? Officers took him to the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building at Fort Snelling, which houses Immigration Court and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement offices. They took his fingerprints, and then one of the officers allowed Mubashir to show his ID, proving his U.S. citizenship, Mubashir said. He was then immediately allowed to leave. However, here is Gregory Bavino, one of the guys leading all of these Gestapo-like activities. One must carry immigration documents as per the INA. A real ID is not an immigration document. Except, hey guys, I don't know if you know this. If you are a U.S. citizen, you don't have official citizenship immigration documents, rather. You don't have official immigration documents if you're a U.S. citizen. If you are naturalized, you might have older ones. Wait, if real ID is not acceptable, what the fuck am I supposed to carry? That's the best part. There is nothing you can carry because they don't care if you have proper ID. They don't care if you're a US citizen. They do not give a fuck because they are thugs. They are brown shirts. They are designed to sow discord. They are designed to make us afraid. They are designed to try and cow us into submission. This is Nazi shit. Literally, the whole point of real ID is to prevent this very thing. Yeah, it's literally an ID that's supposed to be good enough proof of citizenship that you can go into, Canada or Mexico without a passport. All you need is the real ID. Literal jackbooted thugs. And, people have the audacity to come in here and be like, what, it's not Nazism, it's just racism. It's like, no, it's racism is highly intertwined with Nazism, and also so is this show of force. So is this explicit attempt to hunt down minorities and to, push, folks who are non-white and non-heteronormative into the shadows. It is deliberate. And guys,
wait, what's Real ID? I have a state ID.
Real ID is like a higher level of security than state ID. Basically every state is supposed to be switching over to Real ID. In the past, you could like show your driver's license, for example, and be able to fly on a plane within the United States. Real ID laws went into effect like 15 years ago, but states have been just pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. But basically, it's supposed to be like a national level implementation of Real ID that will then allow you to fly on a plane and like prove your identity. Like the federal government passed a law saying all states have to adopt it, but states have been slow to adopt it because it's a huge pain in the ass to suddenly say, oh, if you want a government ID, you have to submit, twice as much paperwork. So a national ID instead of state? No, it's still a state ID, but it's done in accordance with a federal set of regulations so that, look, you guys can look it up. It's a thing. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is that Republicans think you are stupid as fuck, right? They think you are stupid as fuck, and they will talk about it openly. Like, it's not a secret. Like, when the Republican thought leaders get together and they talk about, average Republicans, they think you're a moron. Here's Christopher Rufo, and if you don't know the name Christopher Rufo, you are definitely familiar with his work, okay? He's the guy who came up with, he's basically like a think tank, one-man think tank for the Republican Party. He came up with critical race theory as a talking point. He came up with the trans kids in sports as a talking point in the Republican Party. He's like the guy who mainstreams a ton of horrible rhetoric into the public sphere, right? And that's basically his job. And here he is, just a handful of days ago. The right's media apparatus is how the right teaches its followers how to think, and it's currently getting consumed by conspiracy, psychodrama, and tabloid conflicts. If left unchecked, it will turn the audience into the equivalent of a third world click farm. Because again, you can't escape, like these people are just, one, horrifically racist, and two, think that their followers are the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet. And all of that is by design. Like, Christopher Rufo is pointing out, like, oh man, there's a bunch of psychodrama and tabloid conflicts and conspiracy. But like, that is what happens when the Republican Party collapses into Nazism. Nazism is a rejection of empirical analysis. It is a rejection of, like, the idea that, like, you can objectively know anything. It's all vibes. It's the vibes economy. It's the vibes morality. It's all just vibes and whatever the Führer says. It all keeps coming back to the fact that, like, I don't know how to say this, but the government is just lying. Like, when we have a government that has rejected empirical truth as a concept, well, we get stuff like this. Here's Chris Van Hollen in the Senate doing good work, talking with MS Now, I guess it's called, about the government's propensity to lie under Trump.
But there have been some successes, according to a Washington Post analysis. Since September, when the mandatory detention policy took effect, judges have ruled overwhelmingly in favor of immigrants challenging the change, ordering the administration in case after case to hold immigration bond hearings for detainees or release them, according to a Washington Post review of hundreds of court cases. Now, again, that's a little different from Abrego Garcia's case, but it's this whole idea that this lawless throw spaghetti at the wall approach by this administration is not passing muster in the courts.
Oh, that's right. I mean, the courts have rejected many of the Trump administration's representations, including in the Abrego Garcia case. I mean, Donald Trump and his administration put all these lies out on social media. But when they get to the courts, the judges are saying, no, what you're telling us in the public, through your social media channels, is just untrue. And what we've seen is lawyers at the Justice Department actually having been fired in this case because they didn't want to lie to judges. So judges are,
just casually making apparent that, oh, yeah, the Department of Justice is firing lawyers that don't want to lie for them. Hey, that's an interesting thing to say, and surely it won't have negative consequences downstream. Let me just throw this up real quick. Oh, the Los Angeles Times. Investigation. Ex-Trump DOJ lawyers say fraudulent UC anti-Semitism probes led them to quit. 9 former DOJ attorneys investigating UC anti-Semitism told the Times they felt pressured to conclude that campuses had violated the civil rights of Jewish students and staff. The attorneys resigned during the course of their UC assignments, some concerned that they were being asked to violate ethical standards, i.e. lie. UC says it's open to talks with the Trump administration to protect $17.5 billion in federal funding. This is just straight up, taking a page out of the Nazi playbook. You bring these institutions to heel, or you slash their funding, you make them fire everybody, you decimate their ability to continue to function. Because you don't, at the end of the day, need them. You don't need them to function, because if you're a fascist, you don't actually want an educated population anyway. And so, in fact, it is in your best interest as a fascist movement to just break them. Get your lawyers to lie for you. Break the educational institutions. If you can, co-opt them to tell lies, which is exactly what bending the knee to the Trump administration has gotten every single one of these elite universities that has deigned to, or has decided to bend the knee. They are trying to break our entire system. Now, you might be saying, well, okay, but surely young Republicans are up in arms about this. They're being told they're morons. Their educational futures are being destroyed. Surely they might be waking up to what is happening. Except actually the opposite. New York Young Republican Club Gala draws white nationalist far-right Germans as elected officials skip out. Now, guys, I don't know about you, but what do you call a white nationalist German? I feel like there's a name, some kind of organizing group one might belong to if you are, a German white nationalist. I don't know. Let's take a look here. 2 months after prominent members of a national young Republican organization were exposed for their role in a hate-filled private group chat, the city-based chapter showed it's willing to welcome almost anyone. Inside Cipriani Wall Street, a lavish event space in the financial district amid the sea of tuxedos and ball gowns, was white nationalist leader Jared Taylor. Across the room sat Empath Chan, an influencer who went viral recently for wearing blackface on Halloween. And appearing on stage was Markus Frohnmayer, a far-right German politician whose political party the club had cheered with a German-language phrase popularized by the Nazis. At least 19 other members of the Alternative for Germany, AfD party, joined him. Republicans are just Nazis, guys. The modern political evolution of mainstream conservatism is just Nazism. That's it. They're just Nazis. They're just Nazis. Also spotted at the New York Young Republican Club Gala, Vish Bura, a club member who lost his job at the conservative One America News Network last month for posting a video depicting Jews as cockroaches. Because they're Nazis. Like, they are just straight up fucking Nazis. Like, it's not a difficult thing. It doesn't have nuance to it. No, they're just Nazis.
I am saying this because I know my friend would not because I agree, but how do you know they aren't a few bad apples?
Because the saying "a few bad apples" ends with "spoils the whole bunch." Like, that's one of the things there. And number two, this group has been active for a long time and is actively becoming more Nazi. The main disagreement right now among the conservative movement is not on any policy. It's not on anything, really. It is simply about whether or not, like, honestly, it's right now, it's all about whether or not Charlie Kirk was assassinated by, like, a coalition of France, Egypt, and Israel, I guess. Like, that's one of the main questions the online right is interested in asking. But, like, at the heart of it is, which way does the Republican movement go? Does it go in the Candace Owens direction, which is just the embracing and a normalization of virulent anti-Semitism? Or does it go in more of the, like, I guess, who represents it now? I don't know, the Ben Shapiro direction of, like, oh, well, you know, we're still gonna full-throatedly support Israel, but and we still hate all the same people, but Jews are okay. Like, it's really just, the main issue of the current Republican moment is, hey, do we add Jews to the list of minorities that we openly despise? You know, alongside, like, trans people and, like, other LGBTQ people. So that's really the main disagreement at the moment. But of course, it continues going on. Just 8 weeks after this City Club's statewide counterpart was dismantled by the New York State GOP, the city-based club showed on Saturday night how a young Republican organization can throw a party. Its 113th annual gala came as local chapters are still reeling from the racist and anti-Semitic "I love Hitler" chat, and as the GOP faces a larger reckoning over whether anti-Jewish voices have space within the party. I mean, this is why, like, Nick Fuentes is being talked about with Piers Morgan. And, like, I've been meaning to cover this interview for a while, and we're not going to do it right now. But I did want to just point out something about this, right? Oh God, we're not watching this right now. But Piers Morgan had Nick Fuentes on his show, right? To confront him. And one might think, well, of course, Piers Morgan, a voice of unbiased reason in our modern times, except Piers Morgan has always been a conservative. He's a conservative man. He has conservative ideals, right? He is having Nick Fuentes on in order to, like, stop what Nick Fuentes represents, which is the virulent embracing of anti-Semitism, right? The open Nazification of the GOP. And you can see this as basically if you boiled all of the disagreement down into, like, one video, this would be it. Because it's pretty clear which side represents, what each side represents, rather. For one thing, you can just go and look at who is sponsoring this particular episode. You've got Angel Studios. You know, the studio that did the what's it called? The one with the kids in Latin America, Railroad. God, is it Sound of Freedom? No. God, what is it called? Is it called Sound of Freedom? I for a minute, my mind blanked and I thought it had something to do with railroads. Anyway, Sound of Freedom. It's the studio that brought you Sound of Freedom, right? So that's one of the sponsors. And oh, look at that, Pendragon Cycle from Daily Wire Plus. He's literally taking money from the Daily Wire in order to advertise their upcoming miniseries that I made fun of literally yesterday. So, look, all I'm saying is Piers Morgan kind of stands in as a proxy for, one side, Fuentes for the other. And this is like at the heart of the Republican question at the moment. But it's pretty clear to me which side is gaining traction, and it's not the un-Nazified one, which, to be clear, still had a lot of the building blocks of Nazism inside of it. On Saturday night, the festivities provided a glimpse of what the party's youth wing looks like amidst those conditions. Over the course of the gala, a club member struck an attendee in the face outside on the sidewalk. President Donald Trump was endorsed for a third term, and a protester wearing a Nazi armband and waving a swastika-laden banner popped up from his seat to shout, "I guess we're all Nazis," in an attempt to disrupt the event. The sold-out Cipriani served its signature Bellini cocktail to attendees upon arrival. It was sold out, by the way. It was sold out, even though more mainstream politicians in the United States avoided it like the plague. Zoltán Maga, a Hungarian violinist whose last name sparked jokes among the GOP faithful, performed during the 6-course dinner, which featured baked tagliolini with mushrooms, prime rib, and potatoes. Who gives a fuck what this room full of Nazis was eating? Jesus Christ. In October, Politico reported on a chat with a dozen young Republicans who held leadership positions in chapters of the organization across the country. Since that initial report, at least 7 people involved in the chats lost their jobs, including a Vermont state lawmaker who resigned. 2 members of the chat apologized for the chats, but blamed the rival city group for them coming to light. Later in the evening, white nationalist Nick Fuentes, whose friendly October interview with Tucker Carlson has splintered the GOP, lingered on the sidewalk outside Cipriani after the club's organizers banned him from entering. "This is the worst event they've ever thrown," the club's press chairman, Lucian Wintrich, told reporters huddled together in the press pen where the media was restricted for much of the event. Like, these people are Nazis, guys. The only reason they aren't allowing Nick Fuentes in there is because he's a recognizable Nazi. But they'll happily allow less recognizable Nazis into their event, as evidenced by the fact that they are riddled with overt Nazis who are overtly Nazis in private, and none of them give a shit. God, it's truly embarrassing. Folks, what can you do? What can you do about this? Like what can you do? Well, I feel like you guys already know what I'm going to say. You can organize. You can organize. You can organize. Join and radicalize your local Dems to better pro-working class policy. Join your local DSA to radicalize them and make them more effective in your community. Organize. Unionize your workplace. Do what you can. Because it's really easy to feel powerless in the face of these huge, overwhelming problems, but you know what makes those problems easier to tackle? When we work together. So organize. Join your local Dems and radicalize them. Dragonfly has been doing this work for years, radicalizing Dems and pushing them to get better pro-working class positions. And it is hard work, but we can do it. The more of us join and radicalize, the easier it will be for us to win. We need to push out the centrist conservative Dems who do not listen to demands for change. We can do it, but we need your help. So join your local Dems. If you need help doing that, join our Discord, reach out to Dragonfly. We also have Discord chats for talking about how to radicalize your local Dems, how to make your DSA more effective. We got 2 different channels for those. Okay? Get to it. You can do it. If you need help getting involved in DSA, join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy. Gamergy and Dragonfly have very graciously offered their time and effort to help you become more effective in your local area. We can, in fact, organize if enough of us give a damn. We can, in fact, organize and beat these Nazi bastard fucks until they are politically irrelevant in the dustbin of history where they belong. All right? So that is what we need to do. Okay? Join your local Dems and radicalize them. Join your local DSA, make them more effective. And folks, you can make a change on the local level, and that change on the local level will reverberate throughout the country. Here's Houston's mayor, who just recently lost a Democratic endorsement because folks in Houston did not care for the fact that he was actively courting Republicans and fundraising from the GOP. When you get involved in your local government, you can get these fucks out of office. You can fight them and you can win. You do not have to be silent. You do not have to accept this bullshit status quo you've all been fed. Let's get to work. And if anything I've said, if anything I've talked about here has been interesting or educational, please consider hitting the like button and drop a comment. Apparently, comments over 8 words really help in the algorithm, so please consider doing so. And also, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Also tested out with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. The reviews are stellar. Check it out. Very comfortable underwear, non-tucking lingerie, and also just it's just very fashionable. Like I think it looks good. I don't know. All that being said, link down in the doobly-doo, and let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jackson.